Ladies and gentlemen, welcome down to the LATS podcast. I am your host, Brody Atkinson, joined once again by Diego Hope. Diego, how are
hmm
you?
Pretty good, thank you.
Pretty good. Okay. Um, so this week, a lot of crazy stuff happened. A lot of
hmm
shakeup in my poll. What you guys are seeing right now on the left is my last week's poll, and on the right is this AP poll from this week. So just kind of get yourself acclimatized to it. There is a lot of shift up from my poll last week to my new poll. Obviously, starting a poll in the midway of the season makes it a lot harder
hmm
to establish some stuff. So I'm trying to keep the movement relatively fresh week in week out. I'm trying to weigh current performance to recent or to past performance a little bit more this week, and I'm trying to adjust. So Diego, out of that right side, out of that new AP, what's the team that sticks out to you the most?
I mean, the first one probably, Notre Dame at number 10. They're back to the number 10 since what? Week 0?
I believe.
Yeah, so big move up for them, and they deserve it, even though they've only really played just USC, but I feel
Yeah,
like I know you don't like talking about like losses, but they have two
they
very
do
quality
have two
losses.
two very high quality losses, and
But I feel like the Miami loss is really affecting them going towards like I don't know how I'm going to feel about them in the college football one because they did lose to Miami
and I
and
and I agree with that, and that'll be reflected in my AP. So last week, I kind of talked about it when I was on my own. I felt that I ranked Notre Dame too high last week, and in
yeah
reality, I would move Notre Dame from around 14 to around 18 last week.
yeah
Obviously, that changed this week. They did not look pretty against Boston College, but I
yeah
do think I tried to weigh in a little bit more of that Miami loss. I tried it. It's really hard for me to put them much higher than 14 right now, which is where I do have them. We'll click quickly to my AP. Um, we'll just start, I guess, 25 to 21. Who do you see there that really sticks out to you the most? Um,
one of the really fraudulent teams that I really pick on is I'm not really a Michigan hater, but like I think that this season like their losses are I mean they do outweigh their wins really because who they won against. They haven't really won against anybody good. And they
I
played
agree.
Oklahoma. They lost to Oklahoma, and then they lost to USC by a margin. But you can't really take away from what Michigan's done. Granted, they have probably one of the highest paid players in college football in Bryce Underwood. But
They've beat Nebraska on the road and they beat Washington at home. So
yeah,
those
I
are
see
two
that.
those are two okay wins. Nebraska's
Yeah,
definitely lost a lot of its luster, especially with Dylan Raiola getting hurt and them falling to 3 losses on the year.
yeah.
Washington, and I'll kind of get to this in my next segment. I did drop them
hmm
because when I compared Michigan, Iowa, and Washington, they're all very similar in the standings in the Big Ten. It's except Washington is 3-2 in conference play. Iowa and Michigan are both 4-1 and 5-1 respectively. So that is why I put Michigan in
Yeah, I
um,
like that though.
over over Iowa. They just have one
Mhm.
more conference win than Iowa. Um, a couple other teams. I'll just quickly touch on the rest of that bottom five. Pitt, they're very hot. They have a true freshman quarterback. He is one of the
Yeah, I'm
best.
surprised.
He's been very, very
It's been
impressive.
good. Yeah.
Um, I look forward to see what they do. They do play a cup. They play a challenging schedule down the road. I believe they
Mhm.
play Notre Dame. I believe they play Georgia Tech. Those are two
I think if they went
games
out, they could make the college football
they're
playoffs.
knocking on the door. And if not
Yeah.
for that loss to West Virginia early in the year, obviously West Virginia turned out to be a bottom feeder school this year. A lot of problems that side of the ball, but they lost their big rivalry game. And I think that has partially allowed them some freedom, some breathing room down the road here. And it's really allowing them to perform. Iowa, I kind of already touched on them. They just have one less win in conference play to Michigan. They look okay. They're Iowa. They're never going to be flashy. Cincinnati, obviously dominated by Utah this week. I'll get into
Yeah.
Utah a little bit later on. I don't I feel like they've kind of fallen into the Georgia Tech thing this week, which Georgia Tech fell to the same issues. Now that they do have that loss in conference play,
Yeah.
all of their everything that they've built up in these last 8 weeks has completely been disintegrated. Their one
Yeah.
loss on the season is to Nebraska. It's an okay loss for face value, but that loss is losing value. And I'll continue. I'll say right now, after that performance, there's no way I'm picking them over BYU in two
Yeah.
weeks, 3 weeks. They just don't. All of their luster is gone. If you struggle against a defensive and offensive line of Utah, you're going to struggle against BYU just as much, if not more. Um,
Hmm.
the next two, San Diego State and Memphis, those are my two group of five schools in the rankings. Memphis, I put them higher just because they're in a better conference right now.
Hmm.
So who San Diego State obviously one loss, Memphis obviously one loss. San Diego State's loss is better, but I did keep Memphis ahead. So moving on, 20-16. It's kind of self-explanatory if you know what the rankings look like in the SEC and what the head-to-heads are.
Yeah.
But how do you feel about that?
What, four straight
That's
SEC teams?
yeah,
Well, I feel like Missouri's really going to fall off a cliff here soon because their starting quarterback did get hurt against Vanderbilt.
yeah. And I
I
and I
feel
did
like,
rank. It's important to realize that I did rank them as a healthy program.
mhm,
If not, if I were to rank them and take into account, hey, um, their quarterback doesn't start for the rest of the season, I would drop them completely. I
yeah,
feel that we'll get in later to some teams that I think could get in that I would probably rank over them right now. But I do trust that Missouri rushing attack, and I still believe that they're good enough defensively to maybe
to at
stay
least
in
make games competitive. Yeah.
some games. Maybe they don't have that playmaker because they don't have that experience now at the quarterback position, but it'll be a rough rest of the season for them, I believe. And I do believe that I do have them overranked, but I believe that they deserve that ranking for what they've done. And I'm
Mhm.
trying not to project too much further down the road.
Yeah, I feel like every other team's like, really good. I would maybe rank Texas a little higher because they have had some good wins. The Florida loss, really bad, but I mean their other losses to the number consensus number one, but you have them number two, Ohio State Buckeyes by
Yeah.
what was it, like 3 points, and that
And
was
it is
Arch's first game.
important for me for it's important for me that Texas for me never really had, apart from Oklahoma, they really hadn't proved themselves to me. And in that Oklahoma game, I had Oklahoma there because Oklahoma was bad.
Yeah,
Texas wasn't good. Oklahoma was bad. And so this week, I brought them from unranked around 26, 27. I was really impressed. 34-31 does not tell the full story of that Vanderbilt
yeah, that
game.
is true.
And that was, although I did believe Vanderbilt was overranked last week, I still believe
Yeah,
that's a good win. This whole
it's a great
gaggle
one.
of four SEC teams, obviously Vanderbilt beat Missouri,
Hmm.
Texas beat Oklahoma, and Texas beat
And
Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt.
I just think Oklahoma's a better team than Vanderbilt right now.
Yeah,
Um,
I can totally agree with that.
and that's about um, all I have to explain there is it's kind of just head to heads. And if
Yeah.
not for Missouri being a 19, you might see honestly Memphis hopping up maybe ahead of Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. I think the college football polls tonight will really tell the full story because I feel like Memphis, because our Tulane pick what was it, last week?
Yeah, that definitely did not
It
turn
aged
out.
like milk. It was so bad. But I mean, like, yeah, I feel like Memphis or a sleeper here in North Texas could be the group of five team to make it.
And I'll quickly touch on it. There's still I'll kind of go back to San Diego State and Memphis here. San Diego State, I touched on them. The Mountain West is not as stout as it was last year. It's still a very good. It's still solidly the sixth conference. It's solidly the second best Mountain West or Group of Five conference. However, San Diego State cannot afford another loss due to the strength of their conference. Memphis, your American Conference title winner, might be able to sneak into the playoffs with two losses in conference play simply because
Yeah.
that conference is so deep and everybody's kind of eating each other alive. Um, Memphis, if they do get another loss, might fall into a dangerous area because their other losses to UAB. It's not a good loss. You
Yeah.
could see San Diego State sneak ahead, but obviously perfection is needed from San Diego State here on out.
Mm.
So moving on, I have a relatively large gap from 16 to 15.
Yeah.
Um, I just believe there's a like last week it was really muddy for me. I didn't really see a clear top 15, top 20, but this week I'm not sure if it's just that. In fact, I would almost throw Georgia Tech back into that backpack as well. I'm starting to see a little bit of a separation between teams that are truly contenders and truly getting hot at the right time,
Yeah.
and Georgia Tech. That
That
could
loss
be
was
that could
that loss
be
was horrible.
that
It
could be an
was
apex. I think that loss has, by and large, taken Haynes King out of Heisman conversation for
well,
me at
I wouldn't
least.
say that. I wouldn't say that because that loss is just not Haynes King's fault. He had what 400 yards on the 400 yards to the air and what 100 on the ground. It's just that your defense can't let up 48 points,
To
and you
NC
can still
State.
not expect to win.
To NC State.
Yeah, the NC State, of
It's a
course.
garbage loss. Um, and um, kind of a similar situation in 14 to 11, 14 to 10, really. Um, Aside from Utah as my 19 to 16, there's, I'm throwing Notre Dame in with the ACC here just because um, it's kind of that head to head again with the SEC schools, but these are the ACC schools. Virginia, they're at 10 by no doing of their own. Really,
Hmm.
they're winning tight games. They're not the
Yeah.
most impressive school on paper, but they've only got one loss on the year, and honestly, they've looked pretty good in the last few weeks. So they have the head to head to Louisville. Louisville has the head to head to Miami. Miami has the head to head to Notre Dame.
Well, I think really like the one problem I really have with this is that I think Virginia is really fraudulent.
I agree. I
That
agree, but
one
I
po-
can't.
that
But
one point
I can't put.
you can't knock them for having close wins because they yet again they
Yeah,
are wins.
yeah,
But really after that Florida State game, they've just been edging out teams and they should have lost to North Carolina. It should have been a loss,
yeah,
but yet again it wasn't.
yeah,
But like I you got to give props to Virginia. They haven't played as bad as some teams have, but I think that they're probably going to lose here soon. They might drop one,
yeah.
especially to Wake Forest, who's
I
not a bad team.
and Georgia Tech last week I had ranked number 8. I punished them
Yeah,
pretty severely. I honestly was thinking about when I was starting my rankings. The first team I put on was Georgia Tech. I put them all the way down at 19. That's how bad that loss is for me. And for to be an ACC school, you
yeah.
have to be perfect from here on out for me to be confident in you, especially a team like Virginia, who is overachieving on a monumental scale right now. They
Almost
should
definitely.
not be here, and yet they still are. So I'm giving Virginia the benefit of the doubt because I don't really know who else I could put ahead of them. I honestly thought about putting Utah at the 10, but Utah has two losses.
Yeah,
And
that is true.
and out of those two lost schools, I think Utah right now is the best two lost school in the country.
I can agree with that. It's
Especially after their performance to Cincinnati, and maybe Cincinnati was fraudulent.
yeah,
I I I'm court's kind of out on Cincinnati. Um, like I still don't know what to think about them because that loss was so garbage. And yet
Yes.
Utah just looked confident and they looked
They
like
look
they
better.
they dominated in every facet of the play. It was 45-14, I believe was the final score. Just total domination. So I'll and I think Utah quality wise is the number 10 team in the country, but I think resume just kind of pegs them down to my 12 spot.
Yeah, I mean, like you can't really you can't really take down a team for only having one loss,
Yeah,
and you can't really bring up a team that high that has two losses, right? I think that Virginia, yes, they are. I think they're the most fraudulent one-win team, but that still doesn't mean they're not a bad team.
I agree.
But there's two loss teams that are way better than them. I think Louisville's better than them. I think Miami's better than them. I think Texas is better. I think Utah's better. There's a
I
lot of
agree.
teams in that top 25 that are better. Probably every team other than Memphis, San Diego State,
Yeah.
Cincinnati, Iowa, and Pitt. There's like six teams that aren't as good as them.
And I'll
But
give the
you can't
warning.
you
I'll
can't
give the
take down the
warning.
team for
I'll give the
winning.
warning. If Virginia loses,
Oh, I think they're out the top. I think they're
I
out the
would
top
drop
20.
them all the way out of the top 25
I
because
don't know
of
about top 25 because
I,
you also got to take into account an 8-win team not being ranked is just
and
preposterous.
maybe not that far, but they would drop into my 20s. Like they would
They
be
they would drop 20s. That's where I would put
hanging
them.
on for me. Um, but I guess I'm going to support my Utah at 12 a little bit more.
I mean, I can
Obviously,
agree with it. I can
obviously,
agree with it.
obviously, Miami and Notre Dame have the head to head,
Hmm.
and I guess I'll compare Notre Dame and Utah here. Notre Dame, on my rankings at least, look at the combined rank of their two losses. It's third and 13. That's 16.
13, yes.
BYU or Utah has a loss to BYU and Tech. That's 15 combined rank. Do I think
That is true.
that that's necessarily on paper the better two teams for Utah? Maybe not. Maybe
Maybe not.
I
I
would
wouldn't say
maybe
Texas Tech
take
is better than Miami.
I I think they're on paper pretty close. But moving on to the top nine, I guess.
Mm.
Obviously, the big matchup this week: 6 versus 9, Texas Tech, BYU at Lubbock.
Yeah.
Um, just kind of Texas Tech's back in there. They're I can't
Yeah.
wrong them.
This game's a big it's a big contention for game of the year in my opinion. I think it's really going to shape out the winner of the college football playoffs. I think it's going to shape out probably one of the teams that have a bye. So
Okay,
I think really
here's a
whoever
big
wins
here's a
that
big
game is a
question.
toss up for the Big
Here's a big
12.
question I have for you.
Yes, sir.
Does the Big 12 get three teams in?
Three teams. I think there's a
I think
world.
the ACC. I think the ACC at this point is a one bid league.
Yeah, because we had Miami and we had Georgia Tech. Still think Georgia Tech's going to make it.
I have
Uh,
Georgia
I,
Tech
I,
versus
I,
Louisville in the ACC title game.
yeah.
Loser of that does not make it. I
Oh
think
no.
you can make it argue. I think because Utah, Texas Tech, and BYU, their only losses will be to each other, assuming that
Mm-hmm.
everything wins out aside from those games. Their only
Yes.
losses will be to each other. They'll play each other in the conference title game. I feel like those are the best. They're the best three in the Big 12 by far. There's a big gap. Obviously, there's only one other Big 12 school ranked here, and it's a decent sized gap, obviously, because we just saw it on the field. I think I would take a Utah and Texas Tech over a Georgia Tech and Miami right now in the playoff, just by virtue of I think Utah's losses are better. And I think they're a better team right now at this moment than the rest of the ACC.
Yeah.
So Texas Tech at 9, that'll be an interesting matchup. Oregon
Mm-hmm.
at 8. Um, just
No
reminding
complaints
myself,
there.
I had them at 9 last week. They move up because Georgia Tech dropped. The big shakeup, I guess, is my 7 through my 5. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I hate DJ Lagway and Florida with a burning
Hmm.
passion now, um, because I'm trying to weigh that performance subjectively, and I'm looking at it that I just can't. I cannot give Georgia a rank higher than BYU right now because
They barely won.
they barely won to Florida. And I want it. It was in Jacksonville. It was neutral site, but it was definitely a Georgia crowd.
Yeah, I can think about that, but I
And
mean, you
and
also got to think
they just
Florida's
did not.
also.
If
Yeah, I'll let you go.
If DJ Lagway doesn't turn the ball over with three
Hmm.
minutes to go, Florida
Well,
wins
Georgia
that
lose
game, and Georgia drops from number 5 in the AP last week in this
to
week
probably
to
around where Miami
probably
is.
Louisville to around 11-12. That's a terrible game, and I understand they have the head to head win over Ole Miss, but they're just Ole Miss and BYU are playing better ball at this moment than Georgia was last night or the other day.
Well, I can agree with that, but on Saturday you also got to think that that's a rivalry game. So I think even though that Florida is unranked, I think it weighs less that they were unranked because you know how it
And
is. There could be
I'm
like a
not
ranked.
necessarily saying that that them being unranked means it's a bad performance because Florida is still a good team. They still have good
They're a
players.
talented team. They're a
They're
talented team.
talented, but they just lost their coach not too long ago.
Yeah,
They've taken some bad losses, and
that is true. Yes.
I just I think that they're not a good team at all. I would take legitimately, I would take Memphis over them. I would take North Texas over Florida right now. I would take a lot of group of 5 schools, probably about 6 to 7 teams in the group of 5 over Florida right now. That's how bad I think they've fallen this year. I had Florida very high in my preseason rankings, but I just can't.
I thought they were going to be crazy. I thought they were going to be really good.
I thought they were going to go to a playoff. I thought I had them in contention for a couple major
I
trophies,
think
but
the problem with Florida, this might be a little backtrack, but I don't think they're good enough to play the schedule they were given. I mean, I think that they probably had the hardest schedule other than South Carolina. They had a harder schedule than Alabama, and I think Alabama has one of the hardest schedules in the entire college football playoff. That's why they're number 4. But
fair.
I feel like Florida, I like the firing of Billy Napier, and
I
I
agree.
like the way they played last week. It just shows that there's still bite left in the dog.
I'm attributing that loss to DJ Lagway turning the ball over with
I mean, you could
3
say the
minutes to
same
go.
thing about Alabama, South Carolina,
And
probably.
I do give that loss or that win for Bama. That win was not a pretty win.
It's not a pretty win.
I'm not saying you have to win pretty every week. BYU
No.
had a 24-21 win in the rivalry game against Utah.
Yeah.
I give a little bit more benefit of the doubt if you have a bad performance in a rivalry game because it's a
Yeah.
rivalry game. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, that is true.
But Georgia got gifted that one in a nice little wrap present with a nice little bow on it and a handwritten card from DJ Lagway. It was
Yeah, that is true.
it was Christmas morning for Georgia with 3 minutes
Hmm.
to go, and just I'm appalled that if they lost that game, like I said, I was going to drop them to 11, 12, 13 maybe. They were
Yeah,
just
that I think that
not
might have been
pretty.
Georgia's season if they lost to
Yeah.
Florida because
Yeah.
Georgia Tech's still a good team.
That would have effectively taken them
Hmm.
out
The
of
college football
SEC.
playoffs.
That would have maybe not that far. I think they'd still be in contention for that, but they definitely would not be in contention for a
Oh
bye.
no, they wouldn't be in the SEC. I see what you're talking about. Yeah, yeah.
Um, moving on because I did take up a lot of time there. BYU at 6. I I moved them up.
Respectable.
Um, obviously that 6 is a flimsy 6. I would say more it's a tie 7 because
Hmm.
Texas Tech coming up. I'm projecting a little bit on that game. I'm
Yeah.
projecting BYU a little bit to go down the road a little further. Moving on, Ole Miss 5. They're not better than Alabama, in my opinion.
No, they're a
Alabama,
good squad though.
Alabama has a loss. I can't rank them higher than a team that's undefeated in the same conference.
Yeah, I do think that the Florida State loss is looking worse and worse
I
every
agree.
week. But as an Alabama fan, I really feel like that Florida State loss, like in the first 4 weeks of the college football season, I thought Florida State might actually win the ACC. They looked unstoppable, and I think if they don't lose to Virginia in that overtime loss, I could still see them being in a top 13 team because they just lost all their confidence like that. Like
I think Mike Norvell is going to get fired from that Florida State job, and I think if that happens, if Mike Norvell gets fired, and I'm not super consistent on this, but if you lose to a team that fires their head coach in the same year, I don't care if it was week 1 and it's week 14.
mhm.
That significantly lowers that loss to a
Yeah,
point where, let's say Mike Norvell got fired last week. I would have dropped Bama to 5
I
or
don't feel like you would
6.
drop Bama that much because
I wouldn't drop them, but I would raise I
concerns. I would raise red flags.
I
Yes.
wouldn't I wouldn't drop Bama, but I
Hmm.
would raise teams ahead of them, if that
I
makes
can see that.
sense.
Yes, I can see that most definitely.
So
But
top
I
3
also got to
remains
think that
unchanged for me.
yeah,
It's just Texas A&M, Texas A&M. They're undefeated in the SEC.
they
They
played great
have
against LSU.
they have to keep performing. It's
Hmm.
November. The Mario Cristobal curse hit Miami. He's 4-9 in November now, and the same thing could happen to Texas A&M. So interested to see what happens there. Ohio State and Indiana still have the road paved. Super
Yeah.
nice. Indiana, another impressive win, just further cements my opinion on them being higher than Ohio State. And
Mhm.
then we'll move on to my teams receiving votes, my teams in and my teams out. So take this left edge, this white box, as my teams receiving votes.
All right.
In that ranking exactly 26, 27, 28. And then the teams that I got in, obviously, and then the teams that I dropped. Um, I'll touch on the teams that I dropped really quick. Washington, I already did a little earlier. They are 3-2 in conference play. I can't rank them above a team that's better conference record than them.
Yeah.
Navy, bad loss to North Texas.
Almost
Um,
that.
it is a blemish on their undefeated record, obviously,
It was like Army from last year when they played Notre Dame. It's just that
and it's
they
a
went to go play a
bad
better team.
and it's a they played a better team and they finally played a better team and they just got dominated. Kind of the
Yeah.
same thing as Cincinnati.
Yeah.
It's just they got dominated, and it's hard for me to give them any more props because of that's how big of a smudge they put on their record with that. Um, Tennessee, wow, just atrocious. Like
Mm.
I think they were overranked already in the AP. I had them down at 19 in my
Almost
last
definitely.
week's poll.
I think Tennessee was
I
a
think they were overranked. I like
mhm.
Aguilar. I like him. There's good people on the field. Kind of the same thing as Florida. Like they're
Yeah.
good. They have great players. They have great star ratings out of high school. They have great star ratings. They have great draft stock, but they're not winning. And I can't, in good faith, put a 3-loss team in my top 25 right now. So,
Yeah.
and then Houston, oh my goodness, just completely imploded their season. You
Hmm.
lost at home with a first off, the stadium in Houston was depressing as hell. Only about 15,000 fans in attendance for Houston, West Virginia. I get it, they're playing West Virginia, but come on, man. Houston was supposed to be good, and they lost to West Virginia, and they got ran all over and just bad loss. That's pretty much all explanation I need to say for that game. Like
Yeah.
40, you let West Virginia, who
No.
hasn't put up more than 20 points in 6 games, You let West Virginia put 45 on you on the road. Yeah, I can't keep them ranked. Um, and then teams that I put in, this is kind of going back to the readjusting that I said at the very start of the show.
Yeah,
Texas, I didn't have them in. I readjusted. Missouri, it's I have to put them on like the line here or even
yeah.
just in the votes area because that has the big asterisk of healthy Missouri. Michigan, I looked at their conference record. I put them in over Washington. They have the head to head there. Um, and then Pitt, one of the hottest teams in the ACC. They may make the ACC title game. Some stuff needs to go their way, but aside from
I
that, I
feel
really
like
don't have any more
they're a dark
comments.
horse. They're a dark horse, most
There,
definitely.
there's a couple ACC schools. I'd say every single ACC school right now. I understand that the winner of the ACC will make the conference or will make the playoffs, but
But the question is, will the
it
loser?
feels it feels like every ACC school right now is on the outside looking in. Even the
Yeah,
leaders of the conference, like Virginia, there's no way. Yeah, Louisville, I think, is the only ACC school that truly controls their own destiny for me because I don't see if there's a rematch between Virginia and Louisville. I think Louisville gets the better of Virginia, and
most definitely.
I don't
Miller
think you get
Moss
the
has been
second.
playing pretty well.
I agree. Yeah, I was super impressed by Miller Moss in the Miami win,
Yeah,
and I think you keep going. Louisville could very well go undefeated for the rest of the season, and if they do,
I,
obviously they're. I I would lean to say if they go undefeated and win the ACC, obviously they'll make it. I'm still on the edge, and this is kind of my point with all the ACC schools feel like they're on the outside looking in. If Louisville goes undefeated on the in to end this season and then loses in the ACC title game, I don't think I put them in.
the ACC is really up for grabs at this point. You know, Georgia Tech and especially Miami losing was just
That's a
such a
gut
big
punch. That's a gut
that's a
punch to
gut
the
punch.
conference.
Yeah, because you got to think if Miami probably won out, and I think if Georgia won out other than Georgia Tech won out other than that Georgia game, which now I don't know how they're going to play against that. If they let NC State put up 48 points, I don't know what Gunnar Stockton's going to do to them.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. Um, I'll kind of. I guess this is a good segue into my other receiving votes teams. SMU. I'll say aside from Wake Forest, which is their only conference loss, by the way, so they're still very much alive in the ACC title race. They're not alive for the playoffs because they do have 3 losses. Um, but their losses are not necessarily bad. TCU and Baylor are good programs. Those are both
Yeah,
rivalry games, and SMU is on the road for both of them. So I give a little bit of a benefit of the doubt to SMU there. I was very impressed. I've been very high on SMU most of this year. I haven't necessarily been as high on them as, say, BYU or as high on them as Georgia Tech, but I definitely still think they're better. I think they kind of got lost in all of the Miami hype, all the Georgia Tech hype, all the Louisville
mhm.
hype. And I think they're kind of clawing back their way back in, and maybe they do sneak into the ACC title game. And
I would love to see that
and
because they did win the ACC
here's
title.
here is really the way that the ACC doesn't get a single team into the playoffs.
I feel
If
SMU.
SMU wins the ACC does not get a single team in.
Yeah, I can see that
And if they do, it's a number 11, number 12
team.
at large bid. And it's a fringe, it's a controversial one. So moving on, no, North Texas, They're in the American. They're in the best Group of Five conference. Obviously, big win over Navy. I had Navy all the way up at 18 last week. This kind of goes back to the readjusting thing for me. Um, I had North Texas way lower just because of that freshness of that loss to USF.
Yeah,
And then USC obviously is ranked in the current AP. They're ranked at 20. Uh,
they're way overranked, I think.
yeah, way overranked. They have They have one loss in conference play, which is okay. Their other losses to Notre Dame, which isn't a bad loss, but they didn't look great in that game. Um, yeah, I just I can't put I can't put them in over Pitt, who is super hot right now. I can't put them in over Cincinnati, who has looked pretty good. I Obviously I can't put them in over Michigan or Iowa. And then I'm not going to drop a Group of Five school with one loss for a Big Ten school with two at this point. The way
Yeah,
that USC has looked, I love them. I think Jordan Mayava looks good at the quarterback position.
Makai Lemon's really good.
I think they all look good, but I just can't put them in. Obviously, I have them ranked 26th effectively. It's important to realize that this is kind of 26, 27, 28. I kind of
Yeah,
did that part last and I kind of forgot to put the numbers in, but um, yeah, I just can't put them much higher than that right now for me.
I
But
totally
yeah,
agree.
so that is the AP top 20 or my top 25 for the last podcast. Tonight we will be doing another recording. We will be reacting
To the
uh,
college football.
to the college football poll, the first one. That'll be a little bit shorter, probably.
Yeah,
But it'll be interesting. Hope you guys join us for that. Keep tuned in for the rest of the week. Obviously, we will preview the Texas Tech BYU monumental clash coming up at the end of the week. And thank you for joining us. And Diego, you have a good one, bud.
yeah. Thank you.